Working on a no fear today, and we have an interesting boot up issue. So far so good. Here, this is the issue here, and you can hear it. You hear that popper? 10 to 1 that is something on the playfield that uses an optic, and because the opto 12 volt supply is out, it thinks that switch is closed and it's firing that up kicker. Of course, the first thing we need to do is check the two fuses that the game is complaining about, which is F115 116. I've pulled them out and tested them with my multimeter set to continuity, and they're actually both good. So we know that in fact is not a dead fuse problem. So the next thing we need to do is check for voltages at the test points and see what's missing. We got the game turned on, but to get it to stop firing that coil, I've pulled the solenoid fuse out here temporarily, just so I don't have to listen to it firing that up kicker. Then what I'm going to do is check the voltages over here on the voltage on the test points. First one I want to look at is TP3, which is the 12 volts regulated. That's perfect. That's exactly where I want it. The one right next to it, TP2, that's +5. A little low, but still the game's running. But the one I'm really concerned about is TP1. That one shows nothing. So there is our problem. We have no voltage at TP1, and its LED up here is off. Here's the driver board. Here's our test point, and it turns out that this bridge rectifier and this filter capacitor and that fuse is responsible for that unregulated 12 volts. So I'm going to flip the board over. You can see that somebody's done some work on here and they've run some jumpers for whatever reason. But what I want to do is test this bridge rectifier. This is going to be a little hard to do holding the camera and holding the board. I'm going to try the best I can. But if you look at the bridge, these are the 4 lugs for the bridge. The one that's indented is always the positive. The one diagonal is the minus, and then these are the 2 AC lugs. So what happens is AC voltage comes in, it's rectified or changed to DC voltage, and then goes out on a positive lug and a minus lug. So what we're going to do is I got my meter set to diode function, and again, this is going to be hard to do holding the camera. I'm going to try the best I can, and then I take and put it on the 2 opposite or 2 AC lugs, and I should get between 0.4 and 0.7, and I am. So that side of the bridge tests good. Now for the other side, I put the red lead on the negative lug of the bridge, and then the black on the 2 ACs. So look, now I get basically completely nothing, no readings at all. So the bottom line is I'm going to replace this bridge, and hopefully that'll fix the problem. So I have the new bridge installed, and it tests correctly now with the new one installed. The other thing, because the 5 volts was a little low, you can see I added a pull down resistor on the 5 volt regulator. This right here is the 5 volt regulator, and it's actually adjustable. And using a resistor across the lead to ground, I can isolate the ground on the 5 volt regulator and then run it through a 22 ohm resistor to ground. So instead of these 2 screws going directly to ground, they go through a 22 ohm resistor, which ends up at ground. And what this does is it raises the output of the 5 volt regulator. So we were only getting 4.89 volts before. Now we should be getting about 5.1. So I've got the driver board installed again with our brand new bridge rectifier up here. I'm going to test some voltages. First off, I'm going to test that 5 volts that I upgraded. And you can see that we're now at 5.04, which is good. That 4.89 was too low. I would expect to get resets at that voltage level. Anything below 4.92 scares me. But here's the one. You notice my LED is on, and now I'm getting unregulated 12 volts is 13 volts. So the problem was indeed a bad bridge rectifier. This is the bad one, which we've replaced. And you notice that I do have the solenoid fuse in, and the game is not repeatedly kicking the up kicker. Alright, little one-handed no fear play here.
Player 1, get forward.
Alright.
Nice shot.
God, this game's obnoxious.